The Bull by Rob Harper, Part 5.
It took us so long to get back to the Bull. Every UDFer on the street was looking for us, and every person was a spy for Minitrue. Or so it seemed at the time. We snuck under the cover of darkness back to the Bull, back to our sanctuary. As Danny and I slinked up the alley towards the Bull, we immediately knew something was wrong. The flashing lights and the sirens are the first clue. I poked my head around the corner and saw the supposed safe house cordoned off by UDFers of every color, and even some plainclothes higher-ups. They were questioning Dave off to one side, but seemed not to be treating him too poorly. They probably thought he was just some stupid thrall.
Damn. We gotta get out of here.
Danny had been looking over my shoulder, and we both knew we were screwed. The only thing to do now was to run, and hope they'd be happy busting the Bull and not us. Just as we were about to turn face and get the hell out of Dodge, hands gripped our shoulders. I won't kid you, I'm not the best fighter, but at that moment I was willing to even try to beat our way out of custody. I was sure we were about to become guests of the not-so-hospitable state. I turned to begin my futile attempt of escape, only to face Jesus.
It's okay. It's just me.
He motioned us to be quiet and follow him up the nearby fire escape, which we gladly did. Once on the roof, we met up with the remaining Bull employees, Angus and John, and we were enlightened as to what the fuck was happening down below.
They showed up a few hours after you guys left. Marcus was nowhere to be found, and the rest of us made it out and decided to hang out up here and keep an eye out for you guys.
I had never seen John scared, but the tone in his voice betrayed a slight fear.
What about Lacey?
I don't know, but I swear in the melee, I saw her disappear right before my eyes.
Angus was the first to notice we were missing someone.
Where's Drew?
I just bowed my head, and Danny shook hers. The meaning was clear.
No big loss. I never liked him much anyways.
None of us really liked him, but still John shouldn't have said anything. I returned the group to the matter at hand.
How and why are all these UDFers here? We left the jewels back at the casino. I'm sure they've recovered them by now.
I think I can shed some light on that.
Jesus always seemed to be able to shed some light.
As I was hightailing out of the bar, I heard some of the assault team mention that they were looking for a case. I sort of knew what you people were up to and guessed the case they were looking for was the one that you used to have in the jewels in it.
I knew Jesus knew more than he was letting on.
Well, they will still get what they want, since the case was in Marcus's office the last time I saw it.
Jesus looked a little sheepish, and yet sly.
Luckily, I had a chance to snag the case on my way out.
And thus he presented the jewel case out from under his jacket with a magical flare.
You were escaping the bar through Marcus's office?
Danny couldn't just let it lie, even though we were all thinking the same thing. Jesus just coughed.
Well, anyway, I think we should get going before the UDFs start looking up.
John offered his place, which wasn't too far, and we were soon on our way. Once we were sure that John's place was secure, and that his girlfriend wasn't home, we started to try and figure out why this case was so freaking important. We eventually found a hidden pocket, but not without a lot of searching. Once we opened the secret space, we found a computer disk. Now, there are few things as dangerous as information in a network, so when we found out we had some top-secret stuff from the Minitrue, we knew we were as good as dead. After a few hours of hacking and slashing, John finally broke through the disk security.
The disk contains a lot of info concerning security at the Minitrue building, which is pretty cool stuff in and of itself. We really have the ability to break in and out of the building at will. This isn't why the UDF is chasing us. It's this file, named Operation Doorway. That is to be the one to ruin our lives.
Just by reading what the file contained made sure that if Minitrue caught us, we were as good as dead. If the contents of Operation Doorway were released to the public, it would cause public outcry, big enough to topple even the government. What was Operation Doorway, you ask? It was the biggest kept government secret ever. It was the answer to why there never seemed to be any food or equipment shortages for those the government favored. It explained why some government officials disappeared for weeks on end. It was in essence the greatest device ever to come out of the Minisci, or Ministry of Science, ever. It was a dimensional doorway, which allowed people to go back to reality, out of the network.
Why would they keep this a secret? Why not just go home and never come back to the network?
Angus brought up a good point, but I immediately knew the answer.
Greed. Pure and simple greed. These bureaucrats have everything they want here. They rule us with an iron fist and are in a real way the gods here. Why would they go back to a world where they're just the cogs in the machine, when they can run the machine here?
It was all so simple, and here we had a free pass to escaping the network. That old yearning to return to reality, out of the network, tugged strong, even though none of us had ever known that world. Maybe it was a sign of moral ambiguity in the group, but not one of us ever thought to try and release the information we had to the public. Instead, a plan was hatching in my mind. and soon I would entwine the group in a mission that was nearly sure to get some of us killed.
We're gonna break into Minitrue and steal the use of their greatest secret.
Part 6.
Why were we going to steal the use of the portal, you ask? Greed, pure and simple. The old yearning for the universe to put us back where we belonged, wherever that was. With the security info on the disk, getting in was going to be a piece of cake. John would set off a biohazard alarm clearing the building of all the people, and then control the robot sentries from his computer, allowing us to sneak in undetected. No blood, no problem. Yeah, right. So, without much ado, Angus, Danny, Jesus, and I grabbed some weapons from John's personal stash and headed towards our destiny.
We all sure about this?
What do we have to lose?
As we approached the Minitrue building, all of us felt the anxiety build. There were so many things that could go wrong, but when we heard the alarms go and saw the building start to clear, we began to actually believe that we could pull this off. The workers in the building hurried to the designated safe distance, and we sauntered right through the front door. We had a few minutes before the hazmat team would show up to deal with the imaginary leak. As we entered the foyer of the building, our first test presented itself. 2 fully armed, deadly robot sentries turned to face us, weapons ready to kill. John piped up in my ear over our headsets.
Turning off the sentries as you meet them, so as not to attract too much attention.
The robot guards powered down, and we continued on. The Minitrue was a place of nightmares. No one ever came out of here alive. And yet, as we walked down the deserted hallways towards the operation doorway area, it struck me how ordinary an office building it was. Hard to believe that hundreds, maybe thousands of people had met their fates here. We walked on in silence. It was almost anticlimactic as we traveled lower into the building. We were obviously below the ground now, and the place began to look more like a cross between the research lab and a police station. When we came upon a split in the hallway, I instinctively went left, remembering the plans we had nabbed from the accursed disk.
Wait! Go right!
John, I remember the plans. The portal's still left.
I know, but I think you might want to see something. I picked up on the security cams down the right corridor.
I looked at my companions, and they all shrugged.
Okay, let's go right then.
We traveled a few more paces past many a detention cell until John told us to go into the next room. We did. It was a classic interrogation room with a large one-way mirror looking onto another room, where the interrogation would be. This particular interrogation room was much nastier than the usual UDF one, with many a control to cause untold amounts of pain to anyone strapped onto the chair in the other room. And in that other room, strapped to said chair, was a man we all recognized.
Marcus? Oh, God.
Marcus looked pretty beaten, and had obviously been abandoned mid-interrogation when the alarm sounded. No longer was he the man that ran our little thieves' guild. Now he was a quivering wreck of a man, and he was screaming at his interrogators.
Hey, I told you everything. I did everything you asked, didn't I? Now let me out.
At first we were going to release him. He may not have been our boss now, but he was still a comrade, until he began to elaborate on what he had just said.
When you asked me to send the jewels to you at the casino, I sent them. When you wanted to close the Bull, and I let you. I even told you where all my people were. Let me out. Please, please don't kill me.
It would have been a sad scene, if it weren't for the fact that he had just admitted that he had sold us out, and for Danny and I, not once, but twice. So he had told them where we had all lived. So much for getting away, I guess. Angus reacted the worst.
I have a family, you bastard. You put them in jeopardy.
This man who was once our mentor, Angus, began to live up to his nickname of Anger then. Jesus, Danny, and I left the room just as Anger cranked up one of the many pain-inducing dials to max. Marcus's screams echoed up and down the empty corridors until he screamed no more, and not one of us felt any misery at his passing. We hurried back to the junction and continued left towards the portal room. This arm of the facility was featureless, which gave an ominous feeling to our already taxed brains. We rushed towards the only door in the hallway, and to whatever fate had in store for us on the other side. John opened the electric door.
There you go, people. It's all open for you.
We entered the huge room, and at one end, raised upon a dais, in an almost religious manner, was our target, the portal home. It's funny how we still call it home, even though all of us have been born in the network. And between us and our supposed home were 4 very large, very mean-looking robot sentries, all of which turned towards us simultaneously.
John, hurry up with the shutting down. These ones aren't looking for ID tags.
No prob. They're all here and accounted for. One little command and I'll...
John's words were cut off by a large bang that irradiated over our headsets. More bangs and then silence. Marcus had told them where to find us. All of us. The robot guards powered up and started to fire. Danny and I dove left behind some crates and computer equipment, and Angus and Jesus went right.
This is not good.
Danny was definitely right there. We all fired some volleys back towards the sentries, but we didn't do more than scratch the paint. To make matters worse, we knew they had discovered John. They'd see what we were up to, and soon we'd be trapped inside the mini-true. So ends my great plan. I'd probably gotten all my friends killed, all for some dream. And yet the dream still called me. He yelled over to Angus and Jesus.
Go now before they get any closer. Get the hell out of here.
But...
Just go, it's your only chance.
They did. Bullets and laser fire barely missing them as they hurled themselves out the door. I then turned to Danny.
Go. I'll be right behind you.
Rob?
She looked into my eyes, and I knew she saw the truth, but she still ran out the door to Angus and Jesus. I watched them go and turned back towards the sentries. My mind went back to the conversation I had with Jesus a few days before.
It's weird here. Everyone wants to return to their rightful times, even though most of us wouldn't stand a chance of leading normal lives there ever again. Even me, who was born in the network, had an urge to go back. Maybe this natural yearning for the universe to try and fix what went wrong here. Too deep for me, and it was closing time anyway.
I jumped up and raced towards the sentries, their robotic eyes targeting me, but unable to comprehend someone running towards what seemed like certain death. It's funny how we all call it home, even though we'd been born in the network. I ran towards home. Sometimes you just need to go home. Then everything went black.
The end.
So, Jack,
Yes, Rob.
if I was going to support a local audio podcast who I loved because the people are just so damn personable, so how would I go about supporting such a small podcast?
I would think, and I'm no expert, I would think that you would want to purchase apparel, knickknacks, accoutrements that have the logo emblazoned on the front. I don't know where you'd find such things. Do you happen to know where I'd be able to purchase that kind of that kind of production?
Well, there is a place. It's a magical place. It's called cafepress.com/Vinland Old Time Radio. And it's got accoutrements.
That the name, it sounds trustworthy right off the bat. I would say right off the top of my head, I'd say that their products are of good quality.
They are quite good quality.
I would say that the looks are of fine nature.
They are a fine nature.
And I think I might just have to purchase something. Where would those proceeds go to, and why would I want to support those people?
Well, I know the proceeds would definitely go to the purchase of alcohol, because we are drunks. And we have habits to maintain. At least it's not drugs.
At the very least, it's not drugs.
It might be hookers, but it's not drugs. The hookers might be on drugs, but technically we're not buying drugs. Is it? Well, we are buying hookers with drugs in their systems, so maybe technically we are buying drugs, but only, third hand. It's called cafepress.com/Vinland Old Time Radio.